To old acquaintance we forgot and never brought to mind. Charles, finish it.
I forgot the rest of the words of the song, and we said no more singing in pairs, so let's not all start singing together, please. We said that, and I don't want to break that promise one episode after we made it, because...
So, alright, then I'll just do the whole thing then.
Please don't.
I can finish it if Charles won't.
Yeah, you finish it. We can't have more singing.
Acquaintance be forgot, and days of old lang syne.
Happy New Year, everyone. This episode is being recorded on New Year's Eve. Welcome to Monarchist America Royalist News in the US of A. I'm Victor Smith. We have Charles York here, and we will have Christoph Billung here for a bit. He will be replaced by Aiden Hallberg when Aiden gets back from shopping. William Stout is unavailable tonight. John Arnus is having technical difficulties, so he too is unavailable tonight. This episode is dedicated to the loving memory of one of the greatest football coaches and broadcasters in the world. John Madden was the coach of the Oakland Raiders, winning a Super Bowl with them against the Minnesota Vikings. Madden then went on to become a broadcaster as well as being the face of the successful NFL video game franchise that bears his name to this day. May he rest in peace. Now, the topics that we are discussing tonight. The topics we will be discussing tonight. First, we will talk about the verdicts of two trials, the first of which happened while we were away on Christmas break. The second happened this week. Kim Potter and Ghislaine Maxwell have been found guilty of the charges against them, Maxwell being found guilty on 5 of 6, Potter being found guilty of first and second degree manslaughter in the shooting of Dante Wright in Minneapolis. Charles and Christoph, the two of you have the floor to discuss these cases.
If it don't mind, I'll go first. The Maxine Waters one is probably of most interest to people.
You mean Ghislaine Maxwell?
I mean Maxwell. I'm sorry. Maxwell case is probably of most interest to people. Just because of the whole absurdity of the whole Epstein situation, and you know, I mean, if it's true, if the joke, well, not really the joke, if the statement Epstein didn't kill himself is true, I'm honestly surprised she hasn't quote unquote committed suicide yet. But it's just, I don't know, the whole Epstein thing, I think, as we stated before, just kind of brings up all these disturbing questions about how so many people, both in politics and in media, may or may not be connected to just evil is all I can say. I mean, it's not really something you want to talk about. At the same time, you know,
Yeah.
when you have just so many people involved in it and they're in such high-ranking positions in our society, it's like, what are, you know, you're not want to do it, but you have to do it. Chris?
I don't really know much about the Potter case, but of course I know about you know, all this going around. I saw a comic earlier, and it was Prince Andrew, kind of shrewd looking with his head in a newspaper, that said that Maxwell had been sentenced. And things like this can really hurt our reputation. as a monarchist organization because Prince Andrew is a royal. Even though he's not active in his royal duties, it can create this connotation where all the royals are kind of these old, frumpy people that like to touch kids.
And we've spoken ad nauseum on Andrew's involvement in the Epstein thing. And
Yeah.
by the way, the other thing that shocked me was that the judge ordered the list of Epstein's associates to be sealed.
How can he? How it's part of the public record? How can he do that? I'm not the biggest.
I'm afraid I think I've
Biggest
seen a
theorist of the
few
law.
lists on Discord here recently of people claiming, to have the list, and I think there were a few odd names in there. I think I saw Donald Trump in there, actually, too.
Which, as an aside, I don't remember the list being posted specifically in the server, but this Discord didn't kill itself.
Anyway, to brief you guys quickly on the Kim Potter trial, Kim Potter was found guilty of manslaughter in the case of shooting Dante Wright. She said taser, 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 and then pulled out what she thought was her taser and shot him. And then she said, "Oh my blank, I shot him."
Yeah, that. I don't know. I mean, that happened. I don't know. My timeline is completely all messed up. Did that happen in 2020 or 2021?
I think that might have happened in 2020.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, it was like at the height of the whole BLM riot
Yes.
thing over the summer. It's just I mean, obviously, I mean, it's a tragedy it happened, but it must have been especially a tragedy to happen at that time. It's I don't know whether or not. I mean, I don't know exactly what the weight of that taser was, and it was a stressful situation. For all I know, she could have truly have accidentally done it, and I giving her the benefit of the doubt as we should with everybody. Just like we shouldn't assume that everybody in Epstein's book is automatically,
I agree.
I mean, it could. I mean, once again, it could just be, his. It could be something completely innocent as his contact book. Like, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I play poker with Putin on Tuesdays, but no. But anyways, no. I mean, it could be something as innocent as that. But assuming the benefit of the doubt, she was convicted of manslaughter, right?
Yes.
So not homicide.
Not first-degree murder, at least. I think that's the
Yeah.
most important part about it.
Manslaughter in
Manslaughter is
Minnesota.
involuntary.
I remember putting the legal code of Minnesota in here when she was convicted. Manslaughter is almost like murder in the state of Minnesota, but not quite.
Minnesota's weird. I think when no. I mean, we did it. This was before we did the podcast, I think, but it was when we had the trial for who was the guy who was convicted of the George Floyd who was that off
Zimmerman?
Chauvin.
Chauvin.
Yeah, the Chauvin trial. We were all discussing it, and we heard the verdict live in the most I guess low budget internet way possible, when with all of us listening to Victor, who had his mic turned up and he was playing the audio from the TV. So we were all getting a radio experience, and he was getting an actual TV experience. But anyways, yeah. So we heard that, and we pulled up like the laws to see what he was charged with. Yeah, Minnesota. I can't remember any of the specifics, but Minnesota murder, first degree, second degree, third degree. It seemed a little, I don't know, odd to me. I don't know. Maybe Michigan's like that too. In which case, it's completely normal. And the state of Michigan has the best legal system in this best of all possible worlds. Not really.
And it just brings up another point that I think we have to bring up, is that this case, the Potter case at least, proves that it just makes the life of a police officer that much harder. And some people will say that as a good thing, because police are trusted officials, etc.
I mean, yeah, it makes the life. I don't know. I mean, on the one hand, I don't think this case should have been as politicized as it did. But
Right.
just but I mean that's every single major case. Okay, the Kyle Rittenhouse case should not have been. Firstly, it never should have been brought to trial. I know we like to keep harping on that, but if it did go to trial, it should not have been as big of a deal as it was. As many funny memes as we got out of it. And this case should not have been. Should not. You know, but I mean, manslaughter is. I mean, manslaughter being defined as unintentionally killing somebody. I mean, I guess that's what she did. But in terms of making the police lives harder, I don't think that police lives should be made harder. I think the police should be held to standards because obviously they're in law enforcement. But I think that most police in this country have a very stressful job. And if this case and dealing with a bunch of protests that could possibly turn into riots might not be the best thing for their health, and a bunch of tired police officers are probably going to make more mistakes than a bunch of police officers who don't have to deal with protests every 15 seconds.
I agree. And it very well could have been a mistake, and it just happened to be a very detrimental mistake. It's a tragedy. It shouldn't have happened. But then again, I think it is my opinion that she deserved, manslaughter, this verdict. But if it happened, it happened. I mean, I don't think it was malicious, of course. I don't think she had any intentions of harming this man at all.
No, she was attempting to arrest him for some reason. I don't remember what reason it was, but she was in the process of arresting him.
Yeah.
Anyway,
It's a bad. I mean, it's really a bad situation all around.
yeah.
But these things shouldn't happen. But we live in an imperfect world, so they do happen, and I don't really know what there is to say besides stop breaking the law. Maybe.
Well,
I mean, I'm not saying that the guy deserved to get shot, but
of course. And I think the one takeaway that police officers are going to have to take from this is that you have to be extremely sure that you're pulling out a taser versus pulling out your firearm.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
And actually, another person that we're inviting up, I guess, because he offered when I asked him, is Darth Kaloon, who's been on the show before. Although he'll have to leave before 9 because he has another podcast to be on, which so we'll get up to our normal 4, even though we don't know you two.
All right.
All right, so we are going to, if you don't mind, Darth, we're going to go to the next topic immediately. The next thing, the Lower Manhattan Community School, right outside of right off of Wall Street in Lower Manhattan, New York, did an event in late November that we are just hearing about, where they are separating the students into different groups based on racial identity for 2 days in November in order to discuss racism, I think. And that is a little bit awkward because technically they were segregating the students in order to talk about not segregating them.
Yeah. I don't know. At some point, you get sick and tired of these racial stories of, oh well, the left are the real racists because they don't care. Do you really think that they care whether or not their anti-racism stuff just happens to be racist? I mean, if you point it out to them, they're just gonna say, no, sweetie, and send you a few emojis. It's just. I mean, I don't know.
It's the intellectualization of their own madness.
I mean, it's just.
is increasingly driving me to become Amish, but in the Catholic sense, if there ever is a group like that. Because
I think they're called hermits.
I think they're called.
Well, perhaps I might get into that soon, because the political climate today is just, it's draining.
No, I mean,
So, aren't the Benedictine monks kind of like the Catholic Amish?
I guess. Yeah. I don't know. I just actually got the Rule of Saint Benedict from me grandma, but I haven't obviously read it yet. But no, I mean, it's just the real sad thing is that it's coming for the kids, okay? And we know the children are very malleable, right? I mean, they know some things inherently. I've heard stories of like 4-year-olds who are been like, I don't know, there was this 4-year-old, I guess. I think it was a woman who was pretending to be a man, and her 4-year-old son kept calling her a woman, or maybe it was the other way around, right? So I mean, they know. I mean, children know a fair bit, but children are still very malleable, and so the sooner, which is why it's important to educate them in the truth, and when it comes to things like religion, as soon as possible. But contrary-wise, it can be used to educate them in nonsense, and that's going to mess them up for the rest of their life. So it's kind of I guess, even if the intention was good, doing it this way, segregating segregating the children to talk about racism is just going to mess up children. And if it was being done maliciously, like we know that a lot of, especially for some reason, a lot of sexual stuff is being done in public schools these days. To children of young ages. I'm sure it's still a minority, but still, if it is being done maliciously, then that's just terrible. Because there's nothing worse than destroying the innocent. Well, besides murdering children, I guess. But there's nothing worse than destroying the innocence of a child. It's just despicable.
It's one of those exercises where if you want to do that particular exercise, you limit it to maybe a lunch period or a class period, not something you do over the course of 2 days.
Oh yes.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Hold on. So the groups were, and they sort of the staff into 3 groups: Latino A/Latina/Latinx. Even though most Latinos don't like the term Latinx because Spanish is a gendered language. You know that, right?
Yes.
Anyway, I've also talking to them, and then white, Asian, other, and black. Okay, so the one Polynesian. If this was a comedy, you could just imagine the one like Polynesian lady who's just sitting in a corner by herself because she's
Wait,
the only other.
did they divide East Asians? Because I don't think they're considering East Asians like separate from whites anymore. Like they're lumping them up with white people now because
yeah. Oh wait, yeah. So it's Latinos/Hispanic, white/Asian/other, and black. So those were the 3 categories the staff was divided into.
Okay.
So because obviously in the racial thing, whites and Asian culturally are so similar.
And the Native Americans are lumped in sometimes too.
Well, yeah, but I mean, here's the thing though. When it comes to the black population in this country, in a way, they're almost like obviously we're all Americans here, we're all American citizens, but because unfortunately they were taken here against their will, they don't really have this neat ancestry like a lot of us Europeans, a lot of us white Americans do, where we can say, oh, a lot of our my ancestors were from England and my ancestors were from here, and that a lot of them are just sort of, they don't particularly know, and I guess they can now with ancestry, but most of them are just, all they know is that they're African. That's about it. They can't get into specifics. Probably West African, because that's where most of the slaves were taken from, for obvious reasons.
And most of the West African kingdoms don't want them back either, because they know that they were all the conquered peoples that they sold away.
Yeah, well, I mean,
they were the ones that sold them off. So
well, yeah, no, I mean,
exactly.
But I mean, my point is that they, in a sense, unlike us, right? I mean, it's all very well and good to get in touch with some of the things that your ancestors brought over. Like I'm a quarter Slovak, so halushki and padowie and stuff are common on my mother's side of the family, even if I don't particularly like them personally. But they don't really have that same sense of connection that a lot of white Americans have. Well, obviously some. I mean, I know there's a girl that I went to school with all throughout my years of education, and still whose mother came from Burkina Faso directly. So, anyways, but no, I mean a lot of them they're American, right? I mean they may have like their own, you know, America has always been divided into different subcultures along, unfortunately, racial lines. They have like a white subculture and a black subculture and all that. But
then you have
they're
several different
Americans
white.
and they don't really have anything else.
I mean,
Although
yeah,
I think
they have a very
nowadays
generic
the
identity.
black and white.
Go ahead, Chris.
I think though nowadays the black and white subculture aren't really that distinct when it comes to suburban areas though. And even like poor white subcultures and poor black subcultures, they're very similar. I think though outside of the music.
Oh well,
Uh,
I mean,
I think that
we have
kind of
to.
stems from the Irish there. When the Irish were packed into all these major metropolitan areas, they kind of developed that gangish subculture.
I
And
agree.
I
And
think
coincidentally, they
agree.
also became all the cops. So the Irish were fighting the Irish. But anyways, just like old times in Ulster. But anyways,
Oh,
no. But I mean, my point. But I mean, my point really is, I guess, in that sense, is it defines what you mean by a culture, because culture is really not just the surface level things like art and music, but the underlying values of a society, which is
oh yeah.
why, honestly,
the animating spirit, to quote
yeah.
Evola.
Oh yeah. So
And
yeah,
even then,
that's a
I
pretty good
do sort of
definition.
agree.
Yeah, I mean that's a pretty good definition, and in that sense, people will talk about, and it's really cultural issues that are some of the biggest problems, and that's why American society in general is just is kind of messed up, because rates of like single motherhood specifically are up, and the reason why I really do believe this is that the black population is hurting a lot is because of their high rates of single motherhood. I mean, if you took the culture of Black America in the 50s, where there was a much stronger um, rates there, it might even be higher than Asians in America today, who I believe had the lowest
The
rates of single
war on
motherhood.
drugs took a significant part away from the black population, especially, the poor black population, and all of these fathers who were trying to provide for their families and resorted to selling drugs eventually fell victim to the
Yeah.
system.
I mean, and I guess really my point is that if you took that, the black culture in the 1950s, because they did have a family structure, right? They did have a family structure, and they were in a much better that culture. While they may not have been in the best place legally, if you combine that culture with the current legal freedoms that they enjoy, right? Because fortunately, segregation isn't the thing anymore. The black population in this country would be in a much better place, and I think that they would be doing about as well as anybody else. I mean, we'll probably be doing better than the current white population, because our rates of single motherhood are pretty high, and we know that one of the biggest determining factors of success is that whether or not you have both a mother and a father in your house.
I agree.
And it's really, it's sad. And I really, because I want this for every American, right? Because regardless of whether or not they're white or black, because they're my fellow countrymen. But it's sad to see that, partly due to policies that were instituted back in the day, I guess, and also the fact that certain cultural things have happened, and also things like the war on drugs, whether for better or for, and whether or not it was directly malicious like segregation, or it was unintentional, like, I don't know, the welfare state that we have, which I would argue that the Great Society was ultimately harmful to poor people. um it's just sad to see that the cultures, partly due to government interference, have shifted to the point where they're not self-sustaining at any level. I mean, not at any level, but any group, right? I mean,
I agree.
the whites are doing bad. The Asians are doing. I guess the Asians are doing the most fine because they have the lowest rates of single motherhood. Coincidentally, they're also the highest income earners on average. I wonder. I
And
wonder
they
if there's a
graduate
connection
the
there.
most and get
There's
accepted
because
to
There's a
college the
correlation.
most.
I think I can provide some insight into that. Asian parent. When I was younger, I played chess in a competitive environment. I stunk at it, but I still played it. My father gave me a horror story when I was playing in a tournament. An Asian mother, after watching her son play chess, he had made a mistake, and I don't even remember what the mistake was, but this will be burned into me. He slapped him in the face and said, "How dare you make whatever mistake it was?" She slapped him in the face for that for some odd reason. Because it wasn't for some odd reason. It was because he messed up a move in a game of chess. And that's how seriously some of these parents may take some of the activities their children are involved in. I know that Asian parents work their kids to the bone
Well,
when
yeah,
they're kids.
yeah. It's also, yeah. I mean, there you go. It's a cultural thing, right? It's nothing to do with race as a genetic concept or whatever. I mean, if you put if culturally Asian parents adopted a white kid, they would treat him just the same, and the white kid would probably develop the same attitudes and may do it to his kids. Um, it's all a cultural thing, and that's society's real problem. The American culture as a whole is terrible.
And we're not saying that the Asian culture is inherently better than the American culture. I mean, look at the Japanese rates of suicide among workers. Like
I
that is
mean,
insane.
Some
I
people are
mean
alcoholics; they're workaholics.
that's also it's also their own cultural spirit kind of working with that, their whole suicide culture, because it's a very it's hard to understand if you're not actually Japanese, which I'm of course not Japanese, so I'm not gonna say that I know this 100%, but it's very much it's the honor and shame based society versus the guilt based society that you see permeate the difference between the East and the West, where in the honor based society, like in Asiatic countries, if you do anything to dishonor yourself or your clan or anything, that is almost completely unintolerable. So you must atone in some way, and most of the time, a way to atone for your failings is through suicide. Um, I don't understand the cultural context around that, but I know it's a thing.
All
I
right,
mean,
and
I guess before we move on, because I think that's what Victor wants to do. But
yes.
no, I mean, there's just the thing. The point is uh race at the end of the day doesn't matter. What matters is is the culture that you have, that animating principle of the people that are around you and yourself. And I would argue that unless the culture is firmly rooted in Catholicism and Catholic social teaching, with its values with its teachings on society and how that should happen, that a society will never truly prosper, right? I mean, Muslim societies, because at least religions like Islam provide the basics of a family structure, so they're not prone to collapse like our current society is. Um, they may provide that basis, but unless the state, I would argue, is truly Catholic, then your
Here,
culture is
here.
not going to flourish in that way. So, and if that, take any minority, not well, I mean, at this point, apparently, I think according to the recent U.S. Census, there is no majority, there's only the plurality. Take any minority group, whichever one, and whatever their state is, whether because a lot apparently even still to this day, a lot of the Indians on reservations, depending on which reservation you are, I assume, may still be in more poverty than the rest of them. Whether it's whatever group you pick along these arbitrary racial lines, pick anyone, give them a truly Catholic society, and they will start improving. And their lot, I guess, in comparison to the rest of society. And I would bet money on that. It's not gonna just magically happen because given how our society functions, if that starts happening among one group of people, it's going to happen among the other groups of people. So you can't just measure the results. But I would bet money on it.
And that was a good point to leave off on. Our next topic was, because we're actually running a little bit faster than I thought we were going to run, I'm going to reintroduce this topic. We had prepared for this, and then we thought that we were going to go longer than we did, so we scrapped it, but we're going to reinsert it. In response to the heartbeat law, which Texas passed into law, men that are, shall we say, pro-choice, to be politically correct here, are in solidarity with this decision, in protest of this decision, are getting vasectomies.
Oh dear.
Why?
Abstinence is still a thing, guys, but of course, they don't know that because they're all a bunch of boomers.
Actually, no. I mean, this is the thing, right? This is the thing. And actually, we can bring him Lord in a minute because he wait, so we can bring him up in a minute. Remind me to do that. But no, I mean, here's the thing, right? A lot of women were saying, we should have a sex strike, and it's like, you're this close, guys. You're this close. Just a little
Like, literally,
more.
please have a sex strike, please.
Please do it. I mean, it's just, oh man, I can't, guys. Okay. Just abstinence. It's a thing, okay? And it's like, unfortunately, we still live in a world where contraceptives are legal, so that's one thing. So if you're really so heck bent on not conceiving a child, and you're clearly okay, and I assume the Venn diagram of people who are okay with abortion and okay with contraceptives is just a circle because there are a lot of, because in the modern world it's a given that you're pro contraceptives. I mean, like,
Believe that abortion is
I mean,
equivalent to a contraceptive.
Contraception is equivalent to abortion, more like. I think that's the Catholic Church's official stance.
Yeah, I mean, contraceptives are evil,
Yeah.
but clearly these people don't have these people probably don't have a problem with it. So, why would you permanently do that? I'm not saying that people should use contraceptives. I still think it's evil. But even within your own sick, twisted worldview, you have other options that don't involve permanently. It's like,
They will do everything they can to avoid the teaching of the church, it seems. It's the way the world will go, and will continue to go.
I'd say it's America's unfortunate libertarian origins, where it's just going to be, we highly recommend that you just have abstinence. No, we still want to be depraved degenerates, so we're just going to have a vasectomy because my freedoms.
no,
And
it's
whether that's right or left, it's still my freedoms idea.
Well, yeah, it's like I actually did see a meme, right? It was this woman. It's like, woman hooks up with guy gets her pregnant, guy leaves after baby is born, and the woman says to herself, the church was wrong about their teachings on sexual issues. It's like,
It's really, it's strange, and I'll just say that. And as we bring Loftan on, Loftan, you requested to speak. Go ahead.
All that I'm going to say, and this is all I came in here to say, is that I fully support them not having children, because God knows the world would be better without them, from these people.
Okay. There's a fine line between abstinence and eugenics in this moment, and I don't think the church supports eugenics.
Yeah, eugenics is the
Right.
cringe, but no, I mean
Hey,
these.
not state-supported eugenics, but if they do it to themselves, well, that's not anybody forcing them.
I mean, no, I mean the Catholic Church is also just against getting sterilized in general, but it's just, I mean, really though, you had it, you were on something with the sex strike. I mean, really, what should have happened, as opposed to saying, oh, they almost got it. What should have happened is we all should have collectively pretended to be like, oh no, how horrible. We all should have just collectively pretended to do that, so that they would go the extra step and say, you know what? I'm not gonna do this unless I'm married and want to have a kid, because that way the dad will be stuck with it. We should have just feigned and pretended to be shocked when they proposed the sex strike. That's all we should have done. Ugh.
Anyway, so thank you for that topic. Thank you for that. So what we're going to do now is discuss the other things that we need to discuss. And there were a couple of deaths that happened this week. We will take each of them in their turn. The first of which was the passing of former Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid of Nevada. Mr. Reid was, I believe, in his 80s. He was a very long-term senator. He was ousted, I believe, within the past decade or so. He was ousted from the Senate. And he was one of the most influential political figures of the late 20th century. Without saying anything more on him, we can get into the bad. We will let everybody else get into the bad right now. So, Charles, your thoughts when we'll get to everybody else in a minute.
Being one of these people who really only got into politics really recently, I don't particularly know much about Harry Reid, but I know that. I mean, he he's just taking a cursory glance at his Wikipedia page. He sure had the thing. He was the whip, which I do know what that is because of AP Gov. He did a lot. And so that's that is, I guess, for better or worse, that's important. Apparently he got a B rating from the National Rifle Association, which means that in actuality on gun rates he was probably like a C or a D, because the NRA are a bunch of shills. But anyways, no, I mean, it's I don't know. I mean, it's sad to see. People die, but I don't. To be honest, I don't know that much about him. All I know is that he was a senator and a whip and whatever else I can read from this Wikipedia thing.
and I think the other useless piece of knowledge I know is that he was a Mormon. He was a member of the Church of Latter-day Saints.
Cringe.
Oh, so he was a
Very much
Arianist?
Stop using
Yeah.
heretical language. Instead of saying Mormon, say Aryan.
Dark, did you have any thoughts on Harry Reid before we move on to the big one?
Yeah, for me, I literally do not pay attention to actual contemporary politicians because I know in reality they have no power. Just read some Machiavelli guys.
Dear.
All right.
I was going to do that, but that was on the Index Librium Forbidum. So,
now the big one. Betty White passed away earlier today. She was one of the original stars of the Golden Girls. Her acting career is very long and very, very exemplary. She was featured on television as late as this year, when I believe she did a guest appearance on NBC for some big show with Warren Buffett or something like that. I forget, but Betty White was one of those cultural icons in the American zeitgeist the past 40 years. And she is one of the most influential people in American culture today. I don't think you can find a single person who can have one bad word to say about her. White
Yeah,
was 99 years old. She would have been 100 on January 17th.
yeah. When she really was in a lot of stuff. I mean, her career was very long. I mean, when your Wikipedia when your filmography is a separate Wikipedia page than your main article, you know you've been in a lot of stuff.
Right.
Uh,
She was truly an impressive figure in American culture. Nowadays, at least, like she was important.
yeah, she I mean, let's see. I best know her probably from the Golden Girls and her game appearances because she was on Match Game. So,
Yeah.
but one thing I don't get it's why put faces on socks? No,
No, it was incredibly funny. I bought them before she died. I have a pair of socks with each of the Golden Girls' faces on them.
Oh.
They're novelty socks, but I do wear them.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen Hard Rain, but I don't think I mean, obviously, I'm not much of a film critic myself, but I've always enjoyed her performances whenever I've seen her. She. I mean, obviously, she must have been a good actor. She's been around this long. Well, there's Nicolas
Actress.
Cage, actress, yeah. But then again, there's Nicolas Cage. She's been around for very long, and he's not necessarily a great actor. But you just love watching him. He's one of those actors who isn't good, but he does it. But he does a bad performance in such a good way.
And Betty White, we could talk about her a lot more, but we just.
I'm just gonna say one quick thing about Betty White. I essentially just treated her like Queen Elizabeth. She's just been there forever, and unfortunately now she's gone, and it seems like the memes weren't true.
Well, actually, I kind of feel, I don't know, just sort of guilty because it was just a thought that popped in my head, so I shouldn't. But, but it's like, I was like, oh, so, because I thought, who's going to die first, Betty White or the Queen? And it turns out, it turns out it was Betty White.
Queen Elizabeth is just gonna be here. She's been here since the Garden of Eden.
Wait, hold on. Apparently,
Queen of America.
Yeah. Apparently, the second, according to Lorfan, apparently the second that I trashed Nick Cage, the fireworks suddenly went off in my neighborhood, or in his neighborhood. So, coincidence?
Chris, what did you say?
Said I wouldn't mind Betty White being posthumously the Queen of America.
She's certainly the Queen of American Entertainment.
Well, Queen of America.
Post-mortem coronation.
I don't think.
I just wouldn't mind it. I don't care how it's done. I wouldn't mind it.
Anyway.
Oh, dude, do it like how the Polish crowned Christ a couple of years ago.
Well,
also, actually, I found an article by the Miami Herald to make Betty White the patron saint of Miami. In fact, this was done a few years back. So hold on. Hold on.
Okay. Well, we are going to, for our final topic, we are going to share our personal memories of 2021, good and bad. And I will start with William Stout's memory because he was planned not to be here, so we could get his memories in. And I have it up here. 2021 has been a year of many hardships and tribulations. When the year began, this is William Stout speaking, was still part of one of our predecessor organizations. And I think the greatest hardship this year was dealing with the fallout associated with the collapse of this organization and the creation of MOA. It wasn't easy, not everyone was happy, and there were hard feelings for people who didn't go along with the path we chose in forming MOA. However, I hold everything we did was necessary for promoting the growth of our movement. And from this struggle, through hardship and long hours, balancing life and work both in MOA and at my job, even finding time to go back to school, I've seen an organization blossom and grow. We are stronger than what we were before. We know more and know better. We've created better ways to, pave the path forward, and with all luck, this new year will be just as successful as this one. This has been William Stout, and I wish you all a happy new year. So that was more of an organizational memory of 2021. Does anyone have any personal memories of 2021 they would like to share?
It just all kind of blended together to me. It all just seemed like the paused neoliberal regime.
I mean, I had a summer job working at the cemetery, my local Catholic cemetery. That was fun. This year, but I don't know. This year just kind of it just blended. It's just blended like I don't know. It's so. I don't know. It's freaky to think that the next stage of my life is beginning after graduation. It's freaky. I remember, I know that was 2020, but I just had to bring it up because I'll admit I'm still in high school. But my sophomore year was when this whole pandemic thing started, and I know this is 2020 and not 2021, but whatever. The 2 years kind of just blended together for all intents and purposes. 2022 will probably just be a continuation of 2020, anyways. But I remember sitting like that day. It was a Thursday because I remember we got Friday off. We were talking about what we would do because this was when the pandemic thing was getting more serious. We were talking about what we would do if we had to shut down and go virtual, right? We were talking about that and stuff. And I, being sort of a more open, flamboyant guy, I'm the kind of person who will state his opinions either jokingly or seriously. And people are like, Charles, that's not my actual name, it's a pen name, but whatever. Like, what do you think? Do you think we're gonna get shut down or not? And I kind of freaked out about this thing earlier when it came out of China because China bad, and obviously if they're not telling us anything, it's probably really bad. And I'm like, but at that point I was like, no, I don't think we're gonna get shut down. And that day, at like just before 3:00 or whatever, whenever we got out, it was like 3:06 for some reason. I don't know why. They came on the announcements and they're like, "Hey, we're not coming in tomorrow," and I don't know. And having it brought up by somebody talking about it at school recently, I think that was the only time where everybody was silent during announcements, and it's I don't know. It doesn't. It feels like it was really long ago, and then it doesn't feel, and then it doesn't really feel like it was that long ago, I guess. I don't know. It feels like forever ago, but everything. I don't know. It also kind of feels like everything is just kind of blending together, and man.
I personally just think that that's all time. Like it just starts blending together after a while. Like when this whole 2020 started and this whole lockdown started, I was like in week 3 of basic training, and our senior drill sergeant walks in, and he's like, "Guys, so," and he took off his drill sergeant hat for like the first time in the entire cycle in front of us. He never took it off. And he was just like, "Okay, I'm going to be honest with you guys. People are insane outside of the wire of the space. They're locking everything down. They're stealing all the toilet paper from Walmart. There's literally no toilet paper from Walmart. And we're just in basic training. We don't know what the hell is going on. And our only news about COVID came from our drill sergeants. It was so funny. And we just thought people were insane."
I can only imagine
You
how
know,
that
for the
was.
timestamps, I am renaming this COVID as 2021 memories and COVID memories because why not?
COVID lamenting.
You know, I'm going with that. COVID
Okay,
lamenting.
I think that's a good name.
Yeah.
Let's invite the one and only Settlers Lament to comment on that one.
Vic, do you have any special memories? Did Baltimore freak out more than? Well, everybody kind of did, but how did Baltimore freak out? How did Baltimore freak out?
Well, let's just say, let's just say that Baltimore is still. Let's just say that Baltimore is still under an indoor mask mandate, and it was under one for a pretty long time. We got out of the mask mandate in July, but it was immediately put back in August of 2021.
Dang. Aiden, since you're do you have any special like hospital because you know you're a nurse? Do you have any like actually I'm interested when the news of this first started to break like late in 2019, like how did you like first react? Were you like, oh, what is this gonna be like? You know, how did you?
Well, I feel I should clarify. When the pandemic first started, I had just signed up for nursing school right before the pandemic hit. Let's see. The pandemic fully hit the United States in March. Alaska, my state that I live in, was one of the first places hit by COVID, actually, and we got hit pretty hard for the whole pandemic, and pretty much it never stopped giving us an ass whooping. But pardon my French. Let's see. In January is when I first started hearing reports about COVID. And I distinctly remember, that's something I'm going to need to talk to my grandfather about. My grandfather is a nurse practitioner, which basically means he's a doctor in most respects.
Can he hand out the pills?
He could. He passed away, unfortunately, in February, right before
Rest him.
God rest his
February
soul.
2020, not February 2021. So he wasn't even alive by the time COVID hit the United States. Let's see. I was still working at the time as a dishwasher, and I remember telling my boss, "Hey, there's a pandemic that's coming along here pretty soon, and I'm about to start up in nursing school, so that's going to be fun. You might want to start stocking up on some protective gloves and some masks because that's probably going to be something." And at the time, of course, they were saying, "Don't rush to buy masks. Don't rush to buy gloves. Don't take all the PPE. The hospitals need the PPE." And I'm like, "Yeah, but the restaurants do too.
Yeah.
They're not going to shut down the restaurants, right?"
I thought they
And
shut
of
down.
course, at the time, the only thing, little did I know. At the time, the only thing that I had a reference for in terms of pandemics is all the studying I'd done on the Spanish influenza outbreak that had happened in 1918 and raged on throughout pretty much through World War One, which actually claimed more lives than the entire war did. Little known fact.
Dang. I know Christoph probably has to get to his thing, but I actually did just remember this, right? So I can't remember if it was going in for a checkup or if I was there for a specific reason. And it was like very, very early on, and the atmosphere in the waiting room at the doctor's office, it was like out of like a movie. I don't know. Like it was cloudy, and it's one of those buildings where the front is mostly like where it's basically just a bunch of windows, right?
Mhm.
For it in the waiting lounge.
There's actually a reason for that, believe it or not.
Oh, more sunlight, good.
Yeah, more sunlight, good. That's literally the entire reason. Ever since the 1800s with Florence Nightingale, we found out that more sunlight, more good.
Well, no, but I mean that day it was like overcast. It was gray, typical, Midwest stuff. And and the internal lighting, it's sort of those CFLs and how they're kind of like sickly looking. Like that. It's not like nice warm light. It's kind of like sickly. So combine that and the atmosphere. It just kind of gave that. I don't know. It almost gave that feeling of like impending dread, and like you see, and I saw this one guy walk out. I think with his wife and child, and he had one of those masks on. That was before the mask mandates, and I can't remember because my dad actually had a few CN95s or whatever or something like it because we were ripping out the roof a few years ago in our house, and we never uh, in our dining room, so he just had a few of them lying around. I can't remember if I was wearing them or not, but uh, but yeah, it just, I mean, it was. I can't remember if it's. I'm just remembering this like this because of the whole situation, but I don't know. It kind of looked like there was something going on in his face. Like, yeah, it's kind of heavy. That atmosphere. I don't know. I
Well,
mean, like I
yeah.
actually thought about writing like a movie script where it's like everybody's kind of like in a doctor's office waiting, and it's waiting because they're wondering if they have this new thing, and they're all kind of like freaking out. I actually legitimately thought of that. I don't know.
Well, yeah. At the time too, we people forget this a lot, but when the first reports were coming out of China back before in kind of the calm before the storm that hit the Americas, we were seeing case reports that were showing 4 or 5% fatality rates, which is that sounds small, but when you think about it, that's 1 in every 20 people who got it were dying. And then China shut off their numbers. We never got another update from them. I mean, to this day,
we don't
China
know.
only claims they've had 12 deaths since March 2020, and
Yeah.
everyone kind of looks at that and is like,
Yeah, and it's
right.
yeah, everything. I was freaked. I legitimately I legitimately remember almost having not a panic attack, but I legitimately remember like crying or whatever, like in like December or whatever, because I was absolutely freaked. Because if the Chinese aren't telling us anything, because like the Chinese, because how the Chinese Communist Party is. If it was really just another flu, they would have said it was. If it was just like literally exactly like the flu, it was. And I still really want to know if that exactly how deadly that like original variant was in China, because I remember seeing those leaked videos of how the Chinese doctors handled it with all those crazy things where I mean, of course they didn't know at the time what it was, um but just like given how hard the Chinese, like they locked down. Like if you thought, I mean, it was bad enough here, but like the way they locked down, apparently there were like horror stories of people having iron bars put on their doors or whatever.
Oh, it gets worse. I've read reports of people literally having cement poured in front of their door to prevent them from leaving as soon as they were put under quarantine.
That, yeah, I mean, it's just, I mean, it's like it's I don't know, like that understandably freaked me out. And of course we learned that, I mean, obviously it's still bad, right? But it wasn't. I'm kind of thankful that it wasn't like what I was. Yeah, being a little fainting in the middle of the street. I'm kind of I'm grateful it's not as bad as I as I thought it was going to be. Just looking at how the party was handling it and all of that. Because if it was, it would have been like, I don't know, the way they were handling it looked like it was going to be another Spanish flu. I mean, it was just, oh man.
It really did. I mean, that's not to say it isn't a
Yeah.
horrible, like in the entire time that I've been through nursing school. I got out of nursing school. I'm working in a hospital. That all took place over the course of the entire pandemic, of course. And I distinctly remember clinical rotations, which are what you do when you're a nursing student. You do practical lessons at a hospital 1 day a week, where you just follow a nurse around for a little while. I distinctly remember during some of those clinical rotations, they would just assign me patients and have me go work with them. Per policies that most hospitals have, student nurses aren't allowed to interact with certain level of hazard patients. So like I wouldn't have been able to take care of, say, a TB patient at the time because it's an airborne precaution.
Yeah.
That includes COVID, right? But
Yeah.
they're assigning us COVID patients. That's how overworked it was. They didn't policy be damned, Get in there,
It's just it's
So a couple of ICU shifts that I was in, I was taking care of COVID patients on ventilators, And
man.
it's not like you have much you can do for them. They're on a ventilator already. You just have to make sure the ventilator's not,
Yeah.
breaking.
Well, of course, you could also pray the rosary for them.
Oh yeah. Actually,
And
I
I
mean, I
did.
wonder. I mean, because my perception of Alaska is still generally. I mean, I know that very very small towns and people just kind of out in the middle of nowhere in like a cabin or whatever, and their only interaction is when they get their stuff delivered by plane. Um, I guess I don't know. Don't these thing? I mean, I guess now I think about it, don't these airborne viruses kind of spread better in the cold for some reason or something, or low humidity, or I don't know.
It kind of depends. Coronavirus is. I'm not. I should specify. I'm not an immunologist. I'm just a nurse.
Yeah.
But as far as I understand it, in my very limited understanding of how this works, it spreads better in warmer climates. But in the wintertime, in colder climates, it spreads easier because people are huddled together closer when it's colder and they're inside more often.
Uh,
That's
well,
why you see northern states are always getting a huge sweep in the winter months, but then southern states are always getting a huge sweep in the summer.
yeah, it's just.
It all depends on season
Mm.
and proximity.
Do we, Christoph? Do you have any fun pandemic memories?
Oh, oh, little do you know. Well, in the past 2 years, since 2020, I, as a person, have grown immensely. Not noting that I am still only 15 years old, but I think I have had a sort of personal awakening, being by myself and isolated from society, that others really haven't had or hadn't had the chance to have. I came to the understanding of the faith, the true faith, I believe, which would be that of the Catholic faith. And I did under rigorous persecution from my family as well. It was terrible.
Just to a sort of, Christoph, I don't think you would mind me sharing some of the details. Do you mind?
Oh no, I don't. Most certainly.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, he can share them. I mean, he can share them himself. I think because nobody, straight from the horse's mouth.
Right. Well, there was a point. My mother had found out, and my mother is vehemently opposed to the Catholic Church, all of her teachings, and believes that the Pope is the Antichrist. And she had found my rosary, actually, and she cut it up and burned it. She threatened to kick me out, actually. So I grew stronger in my faith through this. But I still love my mother, I still honor my mother, I still respect my mother. She's my mother, It's hard, it's been hard.
I think that I don't know. I can for Victor and Aiden and myself. Actually, getting back to mass the first time. I think that was the Easter Mass. Actually, was the first time we got to go back in my diocese, if I remember correctly.
Not in Baltimore.
Oh well. At least in my diocese, obviously we were still forced to wear the mask, obviously. But I could honestly say I didn't care. I mean, it's all kind of.
And the only reason, and the archdiocese got rid of the mask mandate, but if you live in a jurisdiction that has a mask mandate, then you have to wear the mask.
Yeah.
Uh.
I like how my diocese did it, which is that while it's not required to wear a mask at most services, and while the city that I live in, yes, I live in a city, believe it or not.
They have
While the
those?
city yeah, we have those, believe it or we have like 2 or 3 of them.
It's
We
not
have
just
them.
little
Is the
holes and
definition of a
cabins.
city 4 people living together in a house?
I decline to comment. No, so the city I live in doesn't have a mask mandate, but the church, there's an 8 a.m. mass that they do, and at that mass, it's required that you wear a mask. And the reasoning for that is that's when most of the old people are at church, is at the 8 a.m. Sunday mass. So if you don't want to wear a mask at church, go to literally any mass other than 8 a.m. on Sunday.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know the gladness that I had being able to go to mass. I think, but they opened up confessions beforehand, and I mean, it was weeks of not being able, to go because the school was all virtual, or yeah, school's all virtual, and obviously I go to Catholic school, so there's normally a priest there, and so that was great.
I would make the case that it's better that way than the other way around.
Yeah, because
Because then
obviously, because
it's better to have people going to confession than to
confession,
have
then
people being tempted to
yes,
take
I
the
agree.
Eucharist in a state of mortal sin.
yeah. I mean, unfortunately, I wasn't. But yeah, it was. I mean, and I think that I don't know how strong this has felt in my life, but because as somebody who really, I mean, it was something I always did. I always went to confession, at least once a week, back then. And my parish priest, well, who was at the time, he's not there anymore. He's kind of a retired priest, but I always went on Saturdays. And for a while that year at school, they had a random priest from the diocese coming on Wednesday, so it was like, yay, confession, because I'm always about that. But it's like not going because it's like especially like now I like to keep myself clean, and obviously the Eucharist wipes away venial sins, um but it's I mean, but it was like not going without that, was just terrible. And not being able to go to mass too. I mean, it's like when we was watching uh mass on EWTN. It's like okay, all I can do is I can't I can't really participate other than like kneeling and
And
standing
really,
when I'm
that's
supposed
what
to.
I'm at right now. I've yet to experience an in-person mass, and I hope that I can here very soon. I
Yeah,
have a friend that's even smuggled me a catechism.
yeah, it's something to see in person.
Can't say
Especially
I'm
once you become,
jealous.
huh?
I can't say I'm jealous of you both, but I am on the line of, because
Yeah.
I'd really love to be there.
At what point are we renaming this this podcast to
The
Catholic
Catholic guy.
Conference or
No,
something like that?
no, man, I'm actually getting tears in my eyes. It's just, and especially recently. I mean, like I always acknowledge the Eucharist is the body and blood of Christ, and I always thought it was kind of silly when people didn't. Especially now, I thought about this recently. If it was just a symbol, then why do we spend so much time with it? No, but it's just
Why else are we accused of idolatry? I mean,
yeah. No, I mean, it's just the mass. I'm glad that I get to I live in a time where I mean get to live in a place. Christoph has to go, so take care and God bless to him.
Yes.
But I'm glad I get to live where I can go to mass every Sunday, and that at school, like it's usually on Friday. I get to go to mass there. I'm glad that I get to live in that world, in that place. And there are unfortunately a lot of people who aren't, and I hope that a lot of people were reminded of uh, that this isn't the norm everywhere. When people couldn't go to mass, and people who just went to mass every Sunday were like, yeah, this is kind of terrible not being able to go. Because there are people who can't go to mass. I mean, our English forebearers and Catholic forebearers in England had to they couldn't say mass in a parish like they used to be able to. They had to have a priest say in and close the windows or whatever and check to make sure nobody was around and all that. And apparently, they had to, in order to have their children baptized, sometimes they would have to run their babies up to Scotland because apparently there was still stronger Catholic resistance up there because hills. It's a lot harder to drive people out of the hills, although they certainly did after the 1745, after the 45. It's. I mean, I guess what I'm saying is be grateful that for hopefully all of America nowadays that we can go to mass every Sunday, and we can go and we can receive the sacraments, confession and go to mass, and do that.
I fully blame Queen Margaret of Scotland for Scotland being more Catholic than England was, for the record.
Well, blame?
In a good way, a good
yeah,
blame.
no. I mean, yeah, no, I mean,
credit.
that you have
Is
very
that a better
goodness.
word for you, Victor? Credit?
Yeah, credit. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's. I mean, in fairness, reading Church History by Father John Locke. I know I've mentioned this book a few times. Pick it up if you have a copy of it. Definitely, and you haven't read it, read it. But Scotland's problem was similar to a lot of states that went Protestant. Was that the political affairs were meddling already in the state of the church, and all these, and the clergy was kind of lax and all that. Interestingly, Ireland had the exact same problem as Scotland and a lot of these other areas that apostatized, but for whatever reason, they just did it. Like Spain, like I can't remember who, but there was this bishop, I think it was a bishop or a cardinal, who basically was like, yeah, this ain't chief. Before the Reformation, and a lot of his reforms in Spain led to Spain being, so resilient against the heresies rather. But it's like Ireland just they held on, and now look at them. All that for
St.
all that
Patrick
for
got
what?
rid of all the snakes. How could there be Protestants?
Yeah, well, and now apparently some of the snakes re-immigrated because now abortion's illegal. So you can some of them are running are running government.
Yeah, but it took them like 1,000 years, so
Yeah, I know. So this got really sidetracked. I apologize for going into a COVID tangent, but
Well,
does anybody have any actual 2021 memories?
Well, COVID has been a really big memory of 2021. And sidebar, my cousin tested positive for COVID just recently. Keep him in your prayers. Anyway, my memory of 2021, I think my best one was getting to go to Easter Vigil this year after not being able to last year because Archdiocese of Baltimore had the churches closed last year until around May. And and that was really awesome to be able to do that. Other 2021 memories, I got to go to the Apple Scrapple Festival in Delaware. One of my uncle's bucket list items. I had a really fun time. I just probably wouldn't do it again. And I will say a really bad sort of memory of 2021, I suppose, would have to be the fact that I could not go a single week in this entire year, save for the month of July, without having to wear the stupid mask in church.
Aiden, any non COVID 2021 memories?
You're asking a nurse if they have any non-COVID related 2021 memories.
Any I don't know, maybe there was a
Yeah,
dog
any
that you saw on the
memories?
side of the road?
Yeah.
Not
Do they have
really.
those up there?
We have dogs.
Like,
Have
where
you
are they
never heard of an Alaskan Malamute?
Well, no, I mean, I just wondered if they were like a
or
thing that you
Alaskan
saw like
Huskies?
stray.
Or yeah,
I
we
was-
have stray dogs. I've seen dachshunds on the side of the road all the time. I mean, come on, man.
Look, okay, the only breed of dog I like because they stay adorable all the way through life is the sheepdog. They're cute. I like them. They're puffy.
What? Border collies?
I don't know. I think they're Scots. Hold on, let me.
Okay.
Hold on.
My neighbor used to have a Samoyed, is what they're called. Very friendly dogs. Awful guard dogs, though, because they're so friendly, frankly, as a breed. I've never met a bad-tempered one, ever.
Yeah, Old English sheepdog. They're so fluffy.
Oh, yeah.
What is this? Height?
See, that's the
61
problem. The problem with really fluffy dogs, though, they get hair everywhere in your house, and you have to vacuum so much more often with dogs.
Well, as a cat guy myself, there's this one chair that the chairs that they sit on are you gotta take care of them.
See, I've never had cats. If I got cats, my mother would never be able to visit. So I'm pretty sure that my wife someday is going to insist that we get a cat.
No,
Ah,
I mean, actually, I am mildly allergic to cats. So whenever I pet the cats, I have to wash my hands. But
Wear gloves and a mask when you
mom
pet your
loves
cat.
cats so much, she decided like, nah, bleep that, and we always had cats. So I don't think I'm as allergic to them as I would otherwise be. But dogs though still are terrible.
Thus saith Saint Fauci, the deliverer of shots. If you get your 5th booster vaccine, you will become immune to cat hair.
Oh yeah,
The word of
also,
Fauci.
does
Amen.
anybody have any?
Anyway,
All I know is that Fauci killed a bunch of dogs. That's all I know. What
All
was that
right,
for?
don't remind me. Please don't remind me.
Aiden, before we wrapped up, did you want to give your opinion on any of the topics we discussed previous to you coming on the show?
I wasn't here, so I don't know what those topics were, so no.
Okay, so we discussed the Kim Potter verdict as well as the Ghislaine Maxwell verdict.
Justice served in both cases.
We
Go on.
discussed the Harry Reid and Betty White deaths.
Rest in peace.
We discussed a 2-day thing where I believe students at the Lower Manhattan Community School in New York were basically separated by race for those 2 days to talk about racism.
Why am I not surprised that it's New York that's doing this?
And we also discussed how pro-choice men, in response to the Texas heartbeat law, are getting vasectomies.
I am entirely in favor of pro-choice people getting vasectomies and otherwise sterilized. I think, and I'm going to piss off a lot of people that are creationists out there, but I think that natural evolution taking its course on the pro-choice movement is nothing but a benefit.
It's called social Darwinism, the only kind of Darwinism that should be taught in schools.
Ha 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 ha.
No, actually though,
No,
Darwin's
but my joking about social Darwinism aside, it's kind of silly that they're doing that, but
No, I mean, no. I would just want to say I think the church opposes sterilization in
it
all
does
cases.
technically.
But, yeah, but
I say technically like I'm going to oppose the church on matters.
No. I mean, no. I mean, I don't know. I mean,
You requested to speak?
Yes. I know this is technically contrary to ecclesiastical authority, but as a semi-social
semi-social what?
semi-social Darwinist. Not literally, but I think that it's a good thing, because then we get those people out of the way, and, well, we can work on other matters, more pressing matters, so to speak.
All
Yeah.
right.
I mean,
and of course, I would not encourage this by any means necessary, but there's so many more fun ways they could make sure that they never have children again. And they opt for the sterile medical procedure. Then again, the whole process of abortion is about doing things with sterile medical procedures instead of the fun way, so...
no. I mean, actually, though, I will just say as a brief aside, I am not for teaching Darwinism in schools, not for the reasons you think, just because Darwin's theory can't be right because he didn't know about chromosomes. So, like, his theory is obsolete. So I don't know exactly. I mean, I'm sure I'm not a evolutionary whatever you call that particular branch of science. But I'm sure the gist of what we're taught in school is still, I guess, correct under the current theory. But we shouldn't be calling it Darwin's theory. We should just say, hey, Darwin's theory was neat and all, but technically that's not the current theory anymore because of
Yeah, I was a biology major before I was a nursing major and now a nurse, but I studied evolution pretty in depth. Yeah, it's deviated substantially from what Darwin originally thought in a lot of very minute respects. Could I be bothered to remember any of them at specific? No, but I do distinctly recall that to be the fact.
Yeah.
Welcome back. And with that, Christoph, did you have anything that you wanted to say real quick? Because I think it's time where we wrap up.
No, certainly not. I joined back just in case we had to sing Auld Lang Syne again.
We already
We're not.
promised. No. We already promised. I promised last episode that we would not have 2 or more people singing at the same time. So if you are going to sing that, and I would discourage you not to because your voice sounds fine, but once again over Discord everything gets compressed. Please
Must I do it on my own? I surely will.
Well, anyway,
look! I told you.
we are going.
How about you do this? You can record on your own recording software you singing the song, and then you can send it to us, and we can put it in the YouTube as a unlisted video and link to it in the podcast or something. That way it's not compressed by Discord, and it's actually.
I think that's a plausible solution. I think that's a plausible solution that I will not be carrying out.
Send
Anyway,
your awkward song
us-
audition
let-
tapes to Charles York Publicity at MOA.
Anyway, with that being said, we will wrap up here. Let us conclude in prayer in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven.
Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. All right. So for those of you, that is a wrap. For those of you watching us on YouTube, or to our brand new audience listening to us on Spotify, we thank you. What's up?
Well, a little awkward thing on that. I can't find the place on the stupid Spotify profile where it says upload things. I'm gonna have
We'll
we're gonna have to
figure
get
it
the
out.
R&D department on that. I'll let you know when I figure it out. I'll probably have to brute force my way to do that, and by that I mean put everything on a thumb drive and head down to their office, wherever the heck that is. I think it's in Sweden or something, and put it into their computer because I don't know, man.
Anyway, so
Actually, it's
to
on
our
World
audience
Trade
on-
Center, so.
Yes, to our audience on YouTube and to our new audience on Spotify, we welcome you to this podcast, and we say thank you very much for listening. If you would like to join us live we do it live on Fridays at 8 p.m. Eastern in our Discord server. Link will be in the description, and a link will be to all of our other social media platforms as well. So, from all of us, we would like to wish you a very happy new year. May God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America.